When we think of the European conquest of the Americas, we often imagine war, swords, and musket fire. But what if I told you that the deadliest invader wasn't a soldier? It wasn't an army at all. It was something unseen. Before most battles were ever fought, Native America had already been devastated, not by war, but by disease. Long before Columbus set sail, the Americas were home to over 60 million people. Sophisticated civilizations like the Aztecs, the Inca, the Mississippians, and the Iroquois Confederacy thrived with agriculture, architecture, and trade. Massive cities such as Cahokia, near modern-day St. Louis, housed tens of thousands of residents. But unlike Europe or Asia, these people had one critical weakness. They had never been exposed to the diseases of the Old World. Their immune systems were unprepared for what was to come. In 1492, Columbus made contact with the Caribbean islands, bringing more than just ships and ambition. He and his crew unknowingly carried viruses and bacteria, smallpox, measles, typhus, influenza, that would soon decimate entire civilizations. These diseases traveled faster than any European army ever could. Through trade routes, through air, through touch, they spread from village to village, often arriving before the first Europeans did. Historians estimate that up to 90% of the Native American population perished from disease in the century following European contact. This has been called the Great Dying, one of the deadliest pandemics in human history. Entire villages disappeared. Oral histories stopped mid-sentence. It was not just a health crisis. It was cultural erasure. The dead were too many to bury, and the living were too few to carry on. The answer lies in domesticated animals. In Europe, centuries of living alongside pigs, chickens, and cattle had created deadly diseases, but also immunity. In contrast, Native Americans had few domesticated animals and no exposure to the diseases they carried. This meant when smallpox or measles arrived, Native immune systems had no memory of how to fight them. It was biological warfare, unintentional, but catastrophic. Often, diseases struck before Europeans even arrived in person. As traders and explorers made contact with coastal tribes, illness spread inland through trade and migration. By the time colonists reached deeper territories, they found empty towns, cleared fields, and silence. These were not virgin lands. They were graveyards. Most of the devastation was unintentional, but history records some chilling exceptions. In 1763, at Fort Pitt, British officers discussed giving smallpox-infected blankets to native tribes during Pontiac's War. While not widespread, this is among the earliest documented cases of biological warfare. Yet even without such tactics, the death toll was already unimaginable. With native populations decimated, resistance to colonization weakened. European settlers mistook empty villages for unused land. Colonial expansion accelerated. Forests were cut, borders drawn, and new societies built over the bones of others. The diseases didn't just kill people. They made the conquest of a continent possible. The loss wasn't just human, it was cultural. Languages, religions, traditions, gone. Elders who carried oral histories, shamans with sacred knowledge, leaders, farmers, artists, all taken before they could pass it on. The epidemic didn't just kill, it erased. Today, when we remember the history of America, we must remember this invisible war. The disease epidemic that reshaped 2 continents. A tragedy unmatched in scale, barely taught in schools. Not to provoke guilt, but to understand truth, and to give voice to those whose lives were silenced long before history began writing their names.